Why angry? What are you angry about?
It was an easier name to come up with than saying the black prepper or the chocolate prepper. Those two were a bit on the nose, so I went with the angry prepper.
It works. So I'm here at SHOT Show 2024 with Angry Prepper, and we have an opportunity here to talk about urban prepping. And how long have you lived in New York City?
All my life, so I'm 46 years old. I've been in New York City for about 46 years.
A few years ago, you made a video talking about how New York City is getting worse every day. Is that still the case?
So I'm not sure if there's been a pause in the recording of crime, but visually, crime is getting worse. But the mayor's office or the city states that crime is going down. And I swear that that's BS. I mean, it has to be because the city is getting desperate. The immigration crisis is adding to the crime, right? So you have that going on. You have people doing what they want. You got people still stealing from stores left and right. It definitely is looking like it's getting worse, but on paper, they're saying something else.
When we think about urban prepping, what are the unique challenges that urban preppers face?
Well, the first and foremost thing is the danger, the violence, the overcrowding. All of that in itself puts urban preppers at a way more disadvantage than anybody else, right? You live in a rural area, a smaller town, or just a town, you contend with less people. But in the city, you're also dealing with entitled people, which are a more dangerous aspect because these are people who, for their almost entire life, dealt with getting things given to them. I work in the Bronx. I see it every day. I see the entitlement. I see people wanting things, not wanting to work for it. There are people on welfare longer than 20 years because it's been given to them. So when everything collapses, where do you think they're going to take from? They're going to take from the people who have.
That's interesting because I've also noticed there's an increase, and you would probably see this in your videos too, in the comments section. I did a video recently on the quote unquote werewolf prepper, more accurately called raiders, I think, but the sheer number of people whose preparedness plan is to take from preppers. And that's like their strategy. Stock some night vision goggles, some Kevlar, and plenty of ammo, and take what I need.
Somebody brought that up the other day. I did an interview with Trey Cat Knight. It's a podcaster. He brought that up. He said lone wolf. And I was like, that didn't sound right when he said it. And then you said werewolf.
Werewolf, yeah.
Right, and there's different terms for them.
Yeah.
But all I have to say to that is, if you really, really want to test those waters, go to a prepper's house and see how well that's going to work for you.
Yeah.
That whole, and then these are idiots too that have a YouTube channel and that are saying this shit, or maybe they're saying it in the comment section.
Yeah.
Supposedly there are YouTubers that are starting to come out as that. I haven't seen any of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I welcome them to come to Manhattan and try it with me first and see where that goes.
Yeah. So what are some specific threats or emergencies that urban preppers should be aware of that others might not have to encounter?
Well, after you deal with the people and the marauders and raiders and everybody in between, a lot of it comes down to sanitation, right? So with that, and that's like the unseen, definitely smell situation. And you can definitely get sick with the amount of dead bodies that might be around, the trash that's not being thrown out, the human waste because people won't know where to put it.
Right.
That's going to create a bigger problem if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you know what you're doing, but your neighbors don't, depending on the building you live in and the type of building you live in, you'll be okay or you won't. For example, I live in a building that's concrete all the way around. So it's walls, floors, ceiling. My neighbor can go to war with taking a dump all over his apartment. And I might smell it, but I won't have to deal with the bacteria and the germs as much.
How do you prioritize your personal preparedness plan living in an urban environment? Is it to make sure that you've got the gear and know how to just get the hell out of the city? Or is it, to know how to survive in the city during a crisis? Or is it both?
So it's actually both, right? The first priority is to get out of the city. But should you be stuck behind enemy lines, if you will, you have to know how to survive in the city. You have to know where to look for water. You have to know how to make water, distilled water, rather. Sorry. You have to learn how to eat and keep your signature low and the smell of food low. You got to know how to keep the air in your apartment clean if the air is dirty outside, or maybe you just don't want to open your window too much. You got to learn how to curve light or black out your window so that no light gets through. These are a lot of things that you learn over the years because a lot of people don't have to deal with that. Now, even if you lived in a rural area or home, you still might want to black out your windows and make it look like your home doesn't have anyone in it, but that can also work against you because
Right.
if they think no one lives in it, they can definitely approach it.
Check it out. Yeah.
Right. So it can work for you and against you, but in an apartment, people are less likely to check all the apartments if they don't see anyone in it.
Advice would you give to a prepper who needs to develop a bug out plan? They're living in an urban center like New York City or San Francisco.
Have like a 3, 4, maybe 5 stage plan, right? First stage is getting out on vehicle.
Yep.
See if you can get out of your city through car or truck, whatever you're driving. Backup plan to that is an e-bike and or bicycle. Third stage, unfortunately, might have to be your foot. If you live in an island like Manhattan and for whatever reason the bridges are down, you're gonna have to consider a raft. That'll be
Yeah.
like stage 4.
Yeah.
And I would absolutely avoid that one if you can. But you need to have these plans at least thought about because if it gets ugly, you might have to entertain, stage 2, 3, and 4. Because stage 1, you're not getting out
Right.
with your car, but you're definitely going to use your feet and or your e-bike or bicycle. The other side of that coin is you need to get in shape.
True.
If the shit goes down and you have to get out, you're not miraculously going to just walk out of there. So you have to get in shape, and the best way to get in shape is just walk more.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for preppers, urban preppers, for navigating crowds and getting out?
You either have to get ahead of the crowd or leave after the crowd, and soon after the crowd. Don't wait too long, because then you got to deal with roving gangs and things like that.
Yeah.
Now, the hard part about setting that plan is you never know what's going to happen in front of you. You could be walking all the way down, let's say Riverside Drive, which is in Manhattan. You walk all the way down that, and now there's a building blocking that street. Well, then you could dip it in the park. But if you dip into the park and start walking along the river, if something else happens there, that means now you got to go back across
Yeah.
to Riverside Drive. So you have to come up with many different scenarios in your head
Sure.
and routes as well.
Sure. How do you handle food storage in a tight space like an apartment?
I always tell people canned goods, a heavy-duty rack system that can hold the canned goods. Water's always going to be a problem because a lot of the canned goods you can't eat cold. You don't have to always heat it up. Freeze-dried goods, another way to go. They are expensive, but they're lightweight and you can store more of them.
Yeah.
But you're also using a lot more water.
What communication tools or devices or strategies would you advise preppers use in an urban environment?
Communications is tough because I'm not a huge fan of it, believe it or not.
Why?
I just find it boring. I just find it a
Fair
boring
enough.
subject to learn about. But if you're going to use a radio system, the thing is, a lot of people, say that the repeaters in city, they work for quite a long while. So you can get away with using that as your system if you have like a Bowframe radio
Yep.
or a two-way radio or even a ham radio.
Yep.
Right? Now ham radios, that's different frequency, longer range. You can get all of that, learn how to use it. I keep saying I'm going to get a ham radio, but I never get around to
I'm
it.
in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you discuss the role of community in an urban environment? Have you built like a mutual assistance groups, or do you have people that you'll rely on and they'll rely on you in an urban disaster?
That's a tough one because community in a city is very tough because you're not going to find people that think like you, that live next to you.
Yeah.
You're going to find people like that throughout the city.
Yeah.
That's where the problem is created because you're not going to get to all of these people if something goes down. You get to some of them or maybe one of them, but not all of them. Trying to convince your neighbors in your building to come together even before a crisis, just to get something going,
Yep.
is incredibly hard. My neighbor tried to do the dog watch program, right? And watchdog,
Neighborhood
sorry.
watch.
Neighborhood watch,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
We tried to do that, and that didn't work. So, and that was just us sitting down, making sure people were coming in with something. We couldn't even do that.
Huh.
So now trying to get a community together to, put food together and things together in case it goes down, doesn't happen in the city. I do have people that are told, hey, shit gets bad, you can come here.
Yeah.
That's like 1 or 2 people
Sure.
out of the entire people in New York City.
Yeah. Can you offer any tips or strategies for maintaining a low profile, a gray man sort of profile in an urban environment?
Luckily enough, in the city, everybody's wrapped up in their own shit. So you could definitely be gray man because everybody's always on their phones, staring at their phones. The one thing I disagree with the gray man thing is gray man thing works for average looking people.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for a guy who's 6'7", 7'1",
Right.
walking through the street. Just
Right.
doesn't work,
Right.
right? I'm 253 pounds, 5'10". I'm a big guy. I stand out.
Can you discuss the importance of situational awareness and offer any tips for an urban environment and sort of staying aware of the dangers around you?
So situational awareness is something I talk about enough. It started when I started talking to military guys, and they would talk about how, like, when they go overseas, they have to be aware of certain things that are going down.
Sure.
In the city, there's something always going down, and it could be something small as getting your pockets picked or getting raped, right? And there's a wide range in between that. And basically, people need to, especially now, keep their heads out of their phone and keep scanning when they're walking.
Yeah.
Not to say that you're looking for trouble, but you're looking for the odd thing, the odd body movement coming towards you and or just around you.
Yeah.
I mean, being situationally aware doesn't mean that they have to attack you, but something else could go down that could affect you, like a
Yeah.
robbery,
Right.
right? So you should always stay on the alert. You should always keep your head and your eyes up and out of your phone.
Can you recommend any specific tools or pieces of equipment that would benefit the urban prepper?
Equipment that I like pushing is like solar generators.
Yep.
That's a really good for urban preppers because they run quietly. You use the sun as a rechargeable source. You don't have to worry about gas. You don't have to
Yep.
worry about a motor. So I would push that, though it does have its limitations.
Sure.
You're gonna have a powered fridge, which if your goods still cold and
Yep.
frozen.
Yep.
So that's the good thing about it. If you have two of them, you could use one for smaller devices like your phone and things
Yep.
like that. And or if you have the medical equipment that needs to be run overnight, you can use that. But the main thing is to probably have two, one for the fridge, dedicated just for the fridge,
Yep.
and another one dedicated for smaller items.
Well, thanks for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it, man.